little bit of flavored tobacco. So I was talking with a lovely young woman earlier today about her job, her career, and then ultimately her life. She's a pharmacy technician. She manages the staff at that level for the pharmacy techs, whatever that means. But it sounds like it's a pretty well-paying, secure job. I mean, you're basically a legal drug dealer or a drug dealing assistant. Either way, there's a lot of stability and certainty in this position for this young woman. She's 31, attractive. I don't know if she lives with friends or her parents or alone or whatever, but she saved some money and she's really built herself up into this amazing, refined bubble of security, because that's just what she's done her whole life. She's worked consistently and steadily and hard, and she's done really fucking good for herself. But she's not happy, and it started off by talking about her job. She's been there for 9 years, and she wants to at least make more money or do more or have better hours, different environments, something. She needs to just try something new. This isn't it for her for the rest of her life. She's been there for 9 years. Good pay, good position, management, leadership, has skills. And so she doesn't ever do anything about it. Yeah, she wants more, but she doesn't actually do anything about it. And that comes from her unconscious primitive brain wanting to just keep things the same because it's been surviving in this consistent state of comfort for X amount of years. And she's worked her way really parallel just by being there for a long time into a management leadership position, which appears to be more secured. And all the while she's doing it at the expense of her own happiness and fulfillment. Because at an unconscious primitive level in our brain, we don't know why we're doing the things we're doing. We just do them because there is no conscious thought at that part of the brain. And the unconscious, primitive, sympathetic, nervous, autonomic nervous system part of the brain, there's no conscious thought. It's just signals and then emotion, which is crazy to me that we can actually identify things that give us stress and anxiety just by taking in our senses. And it's survival based. That's why we always see the negative, glass half empty type side of the situation. So whenever we are surviving, which is the unconscious brain's number one objective, stay alive. And how do I stay alive? Conserve energy and calories. Don't change up my environment. Keep things the same, as consistently as I can for as long as I can. But the reality of it is that there's no stagnancy in nature. There's either growth or there's death. And so you build this fictitious feedback loop, this fictitious bubble of lies that you are improving and increasing and accelerating at an acceptable society, acceptable standard rate of speed when it comes to your income or your job or your savings or your debt, whatever it is. But people don't get fulfilled by conforming to those societal constructs. I mean, who in the right mind would? Yet so many of us fall into the trap, myself included, of that right there. Super crazy debt, always paying some bills, always paying some interest, always paying some fucking thing to somebody that I owe money for, stuff that it's like, how's the only option to buy a house $500,000, Anyways, when our unconscious brain is accomplishing its goals, the conscious doesn't matter. The conscious will say, I want more, do more, become more, learn more, have more skills, meet new people, try new things, go different places, possibly have an impact on the world. Your conscious brain says all that stuff at an exceedingly loud and high rate of speed. But ultimately, your actions are going to reflect what the unconscious part of your brain is instructing you to do. And that is stay the same. And so she will talk herself, and everybody does this. I'm just using her as an example because I talked to her today, but people will convince themselves, all right, I'm going to go home and I'll apply for some jobs. I should apply for some jobs. They're already talking to themselves in a way as if they're not going to fulfill on the thing that it is that they say they're going to do or should do. I should apply for some jobs. Or, yeah, I will apply for some. I'll apply for some jobs. They use the conjunction there to hide I will. I'll apply for some jobs. I will apply for some jobs when I get home. Again, always pushing it off into the future by the way that you're thinking and the vernacular, the speech that you use. That is going to reflect in your actions, and then therefore your actions will always be therefore as well pushing it off into the future. And yet your brain is fine with this. You get a level of comfort in that cycle of behavior, because now at that unconscious primitive level, you know that at least tomorrow is going to be a lot like today, and the day after that a lot like tomorrow, and you're going to remain with this consistent lifestyle. But again, there is no stagnancy in nature. There's only growth, or there is death. And so you begin to again reinforce that negative feedback loop, that facade of a bubble of progress based off of societal standards in which you're conforming to. That leads to a lot of misery. That leads to a lot of self-doubt. In fact, you're abusing yourself. You're so disrespectful to yourself when you allow yourself to become caught into that feedback loop cycle. And even though you consciously are aware of it, and you do the same thing over and over, day again, every single day, year after year. You know, if she left today, when she comes back in 20 years, I all but guarantee 90+% of the same people are going to be there, looking the same way, just a little bit older, maybe a lot bit older, smelling the same way, making the same sounds, moving the same way, except maybe a little bit slower and older. The store is going to look the same, maybe just a little bit more run down, but everything will be shockingly exactly as it was when she left 20 years ago. The only difference is her life. If she doesn't leave and do something, she's just safely tiptoeing her way around life to death, which makes no sense. You're gonna die real fucking soon, ladies and gentlemen. Really soon. We've all lost people so close to us. And if you haven't, well, I mean, it's life, you will. As horrible as it is, and as much as I don't wish that upon anybody, it just is what it is. Why are we safely tiptoeing to death? To death. Trying to play it cool and take it easy, not take too big of chances. Why? For a facade of security, for something that doesn't even really exist. We're creating it through our own unconscious primitive desires to remain the same and steadfast and conserve energy and not change the environment and not die. We are falling victim to the societal construct based off of that unconscious desire and the need for survival, which is therefore then, that means your life is subjective to everybody else around you and what they say and what they do and what they think and what they feel. Your life, the thing that you have that you're going to lose shortly, you are literally giving it away, its power and control, to the people that are around you. How insane does that sound? You're giving everybody else access to you, your innermost soul. The things that you do and say and feel are directly correlated to the things that other people around you do, say, and feel in relation to you. You're giving yourself away to everybody else. And then everybody else is giving themselves away to everybody else. And not in a way of self-sacrifice and service, in a way of just absolute maniacal insanity. If you don't or you do like the things that I say, if you do or don't like me, whatever your life and your reality and your dimension is to you, however I happen to influence it, my intentions are always going to be best of intentions. And if that's not the case, well, what the fuck am I going to do? Ruin my day? Let you emotionally hijack me? Become bitter, low vibration, negative frequency, come home around my family? Let my kids feed off of that negative energy? They're young, they're 1 to 4, they're in the prime programming state of their existence. Their unconscious is not going to be primed and programmed like the majority of everybody else's. Sure, at some degree, there's always going to be the biological and physiological happenings and makings and markers within the human brain that have survival at the core most value, avoidance of death and pain, all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that the neural network surrounding it can't be built in a highly reinforced and very strong way. And that starts with your energy transference from the moment that that baby's conceived in the womb, all through pregnancy. Once mom gives birth, now he's with mom and dad. Now the family's coming together, but the baby doesn't understand this shit. It's like mind-blowing when you look at a newborn baby. It's like, what? Their brain doesn't even have the conscious, logical part that you and I use to create our own consciousness. It's just like, I don't know, it's so strange. It's a little doll computer downloading everything around it. But most of what it feels as it gets older, based off that subconscious priming and programming, is going to be directly tied to the energy that is transmitted at either a high, medium, or low vibrational frequency into that baby, into that child, when you're holding them skin to skin, when you're talking to your wife, your loved one, your husband, whatever it is, when you're dealing with problems from work, when you're dealing with problems from family, when you're dealing with your own internal demons, and you're projecting this negative energy, your child, your babies are absorbing that. That's a fact. It's 100% fact. That's not even debated. This is where their operating system, the things that function in the background that determine who they are as a human being, because it's how they feel. Again, going back to, by taking information in through our senses, our unconscious brain, the primitive and the limbic systems that have no conscious thought, are solely responsible for determining whether or not something is to be fearful of, like a threat, or something to be afraid of or not be afraid of, before conscious thought even happens. I can't even conceive and fathom how that's possible. Like, is there certain biochemistry markers from the sensory input that signals certain hormones in the body? Like, I don't get it. And I read about this stuff quite a bit. So the energy now that I'm bringing home into the house, because I'm allowing your day to negatively affect me for some reason, because I think that you feel some way about me. And the truth is that it's not even true. It's a made-up story that I created in my own mind because I have a negative disposition and belief system in all things, because again, at an unconscious level, that's survival-based. Positive experiences aren't associated with death, and death will always take priority over anything else in life because it's the end, it's the ultimatum, and our brain is designed to not do that. Very effective. And so because it's so effective, I made up a story about what you thought about me, and I'm allowing your day to then influence me internally and my soul and my spirit, my vibrational frequency. I bring that home to the kids. The kids start to feel it. They absorb it. That primes and programs them over a period of time as to how they will feel in their youth and in their adolescence and their adulthood at the most subconscious primitive level. Now, that's their emotional programming. And if I'm always radiating at a negative vibration, because that's what will happen when you let everybody else in your life influence you and who you are and what you think and what you feel and what you say. I mean, isn't that the whole nexus of America? Like, fuck off. I could say whatever I want to say. I should be able to do whatever I want to do as long as it's not literally physically harming or infringing upon the rights of others. I'm not harassing you and following you all over the place and getting in your way and screaming. That's like an impediment of my day. Unwarranted and unjust. If I'm not doing any of that, if you're not doing any of that, you can literally say whatever you want to say. It will not affect me. Now, of course, making threats and stupid shit, no, that's not cool. You can't be making threats saying I'm going to kill people or do stuff to people. But again, aside from hurting others, threatening others, like in a literal way, like I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to the people you love, without doing that, and without impeding upon somebody's day and their pursuit for happiness, then shut the fuck up. And I'm saying this to you so that you recognize how insignificant and irrelevant it is for other people's thoughts to permeate your existence, your center, your cult, your soul, your core. It's so disrespectful to yourself and to your family, to your wife and your husband and your friends and your mom and your dad and your brother, your sister, your children, whoever you have in your life. And maybe you don't have anybody, whatever. I mean, I've spent many periods of my life where I literally had nobody. I get that. But it still doesn't matter, because well, if you have nobody, then you probably aren't in this position to begin with, but maybe you are. Then it really doesn't matter because you got nobody anyways. So super double, triple fuck everybody off. Like, I don't care. You should not care. Because to give away the very fabric of your time and your energy, the core existence within you, your soul, to everybody else who doesn't even know you or care about you or really give two shits about what happens in your day, allowing them all to emotionally hijack me, to allow them to emotionally hijack you, everybody else, is the single most disrespectful thing that one can do to themselves. Because now you're just, again, once you're subjugated to the desires of all these people who don't give a fuck about you, and you're letting that dictate the story of your life, and you're letting that dictate the energy that you put out to the people around you, which then therefore that influences the way, especially if you have children like I do, how they emotionally feel in the near future and in their adulthood, because you're programming it into their subconscious at the developmental age that they're at. And now that's the most criminal thing that you could ever fucking do to your kids. Top 3. That right there is some serious child abuse. To raise a child and make them believe that they can't, that they are incapable of doing anything. I mean, what a load of arrogance, first of all, from you to have the audacity to proclaim somebody, especially a child, doesn't have the ability to do something. Who the fuck are you? What have you even accomplished in your life? Nothing, because you allow everybody else's thoughts and emotions and behaviors to dictate exactly what you do every single day in your life. So therefore you remain consistently steady in the exact same place over extended periods of time, built into this bubble, this facade, this lie, by conforming yourself to societal standards that you are somehow getting by in life and doing pretty well for everybody else your age, by once again comparing yourself, the quality of your life, to these bullshit facade standards that were created out of our own brain's unconscious primitive desire to stay the same, complacent, comfortable, and survive. So you haven't accomplished jack shit. And you're raising a child, making them believe that they cannot do something. The audacity. That child is far more equipped to do great things than you are, because they still have the freedom of the expression, the freedom of the curiosity, the freedom of desire. And here you are raising them. They look to you for love and safety and security, and you're their parent. And you're making them believe they can't do something. Just instantly reinforcing that negative neural pathway of disbelief in oneself, which then therefore accelerates and exacerbates what was only certainly the negative energy that you've been pushing into them, programming them with over the course of their lifetime, because your own lack of ability to not care what other people think. You let everybody else influence how your day goes. And then you reinforce it by vocalizing it to the child, which then therefore accelerates and exacerbates their thrust into mediocrity and this perceived sense of stagnancy, which is really just slow death. Physical death is life, sure, but the death of any dream, the death of any hope, you're asphyxiating, the death of their curiosity, you're accelerating the death of their imagination, their wonder, and then they become an adult. And then they end up in the same exact position that you're in, because you've programmed them to operate the exact same way that you do, over your lack of self-control, lack of emotional fortitude, which is forged in the desire to live life to the fullest of its extent. You don't become this way by taking big risks and big chances on you and other things as well, other people and other things and opportunities, but mostly you. You don't become this way by sitting in a fucking cubicle until you die, too afraid to move and too afraid to do anything, to feel the sun on your fucking skin. People who live life raw and just They are not people who allow themselves to be influenced by the thoughts, behaviors, and actions of others around them. Sure, things happen. But I'm not going to give away my life force, the precious little time, whatever that is that I have here on this earth, the impact, the energetic transfer and programming that I could do in a positive way for my children and my family. I'm not going to let other people influence that. So when I feel fear, I get fucking angry and furious. I fucking hate fear. Talked to Tony Blauer once and we touched on this topic. I mean, this guy dedicated his whole life to mastering multiple martial arts because he hated fear so much. Fuck, I did everything I could do to go to war and to be shot at and to kill. I literally thrusted myself into that as hard as I could because I hate fear so much. And that, to me, was the most frightening thing that a human being can be a part of. Combat, war, Mortal Kombat. When you feel fear, that is an indication of misalignment within your soul, within your spirit. A deviation from the true self, the greatest version of you that you were ever created to be in this life. The maximum potential that your soul and your spirit and your light has to shine in this blink of an eye of time and space. Your true self. That's you, your actual self, falling further and deviating from it. And in between the distance of your actual self, who you really are, regardless of what you tell others and tell yourself, your actions versus your true self, the greater the distance there, the more angst you begin to feel. The more anger and nervousness and guilt and cynicism, the more time constrained. That's what you feel when you feel angst. And you'll continue to drift further and further until you begin to realign yourself with who you are and what you know you should be doing. And that is living life raw and unfiltered and full of love and full of passion and full of risk and full of presence. Just fucking gratitude and presence. Because you're doing all of that. You are living your life to the fullest of extent as to whatever that means to you now. It goes beyond a barrier, beyond a boundary of your own understanding, because you just start doing things and you don't even know what the fuck you're supposed to be doing. It's like jumping off an 80-foot cliff in Okinawa, Japan for the first time into deep, dark blue oceanic water. 80 feet. Several seconds of a fall time. You don't know what to do, how to position your body. You don't know how to adjust. You just kind of do. And you hope to God that you can straighten your body out and, do it the right way so you're streamlined. And when you hit the water, you don't end up breaking a bone. You just go. Because you know on the other side of that fear, through that fear, the process of breaking through the fear is absolute gut-wrenching butterflies. It gets so much harder before it gets worse. It gets so much worse before it gets better. And when you think about that, that actually makes sense. Maybe I meant to say that. It gets harder before it gets worse, meaning that to take the step, the closer you get to taking that step off the ledge, it gets so hard to do it. And then you do it. And now it's worse. Because falling. One false move. And I'm done. But in essence, I'm going to die anyways. But in essence, I prefer to not die today. Or to make it even worse, what if I really screw this up and become a paraplegic? And these could all be literal or figurative things in your life as to why you're afraid to move. Because it gets a lot harder before it gets worse, and then it gets worse, and then it gets better. And then it gets better, and you hit the water, you nail the landing, or maybe you didn't even, and you kind of You jacked your arms up a little bit, but hey, they're not broke. And you just sit there, present and grateful in the moment as your body becomes still and suspended underneath the water. Absolute silence. One with the greatest life force that's on the face of the planet in the universe that we know of, the ocean. You did it. You made it. Feel the cool, warm water just gel-like liquid all over your skin. You're submersed in it. Present. And fucking grateful. So grateful you just sit there and you're not even struggling for air or oxygen. It's almost as if though you're breathing in, and your natural buoyancy then begins to bring you up to the surface, and then you decide to gently glide yourself up like an aquatic dancer, just smooth and graceful. You break the surface, you look up at the top, that demon, that monster you just conquered, that fear that you just ripped right through, and you came out on the other end exposed to life, impregnated with a revised spirit, so powerful you just can't help but yell, can't help but just scream. That's what happens when you take that step. When you see fear, you should get furious, not angry, not mad, not upset, not depressed. I'm talking furious. And you should just rip right through it, and it's going to get harder before it gets worse. Fuck it. You want change? This is not as hard as you think it is. This is growth. You're changing styles, you're changing channels, and what you're doing right now is you're going through the static. When you go from 101 to 103 on your FM radio and you turn that dial, you get clarity, then you get static. And that fear as you push through it, and then you get clarity once again, but at a higher frequency. Clearer resonance. And you continue that process until you die, until life's over. How many times can you accomplish that process? How many times can you be responsible for your own life? And be respectful to your own self and your own opportunities here on this planet by not allowing what everybody else thinks and does and says and whatever else. Not letting that influence you and take your life from you. To literally give it all away to everybody else who doesn't give a crap about you. To let that energy pour over and program your kids. To then, therefore, exemplify the example of somebody in the negative feedback loop cycle that remains stagnant but appears to be growing, but in all reality, you're actually dying and falling behind. Hell, inflation will wipe out the majority of the raises and increased income over the last couple of years. That in itself is death, is regression. There is no stagnancy in nature. There's none. Growth or death. I'm not making the rules. But when you know them, and abide by them, and fulfill the things that you know internally you should be fulfilling, you realign yourself, you build momentum, and you continue to accelerate. So you're in this position where you want to make drastic life change, but you keep doing the same thing over and over again for some reason. And you know you should do things differently, but you just keep doing the same thing over again, over again, over again. Just become self-aware of your emotions. Your emotions are a direct correlation with your vibration. Your vibration determines everything, your resonance within the universe. Why are you feeling the way you're feeling now? Why did you feel the way you felt 10, 20 minutes ago? Set your timer. I've literally done this before where I set a timer every 15 minutes. And this was because I was in really desperate times. Unfortunately, we always have to push ourselves to desperate times before we take drastic measures. That's not needed, but we do, because again, we want to keep things the same. We don't want to disrupt the flow too much. And so we always wait till like shit's hit the fan. And now it's like, oh my God, I have no other options. Become aware of your emotions. Set an alarm for every 30 minutes and take out a pen and a little notepad and literally write one word, 2 words, 1 sentence, whatever it is about your emotional state. Time mark it. Go back at the end of the day once you get home, everybody's asleep, really quickly run through that and ask yourself, why did I feel these things? Then the next day, as you're going through your day, timestamps, right? Try to identify the things that trigger those emotions, because odds are the same shit's happening every single day in your life. Like 95% of your thoughts or whatever are the same. Therefore, 95 or whatever of your actions are just about the same. Try to see if you can identify what makes those triggers. Yeah, it requires a little bit of thought and writing a note in a notepad. Then you could ask yourself why those things are triggering these emotions. Like, why does this make me feel good? Why does that make me want to eat donuts? Why does this make me want to eat apple? Why does this make me feel bad as you're going throughout your day? Is this meeting coming up? Am I going to run into this person in the hallway? Am I going to smell this thing coming from the break room? All that stuff could be triggers that influence this emotional state within you. But then you really just need to become aware of what you feel, when you feel it, and possibly why you feel it. And then ask yourself how you want to feel. And then this is where you write it down. I wake up early. I encourage you to do the same when the world is still and you're not bombarded with a bunch of bullshit. Don't touch your phone. Get a notebook, something like this, and you just doodle and write. Because now you're taking it from the abstract and putting it into the concrete. As stupid and trivial as that sounds, it's true. I'm taking a thought and I'm making it a physical thing. I'm creating by writing in a notebook. And it could just be 1 word, 2 words, a sentence, doesn't matter. Write down the emotions that you feel throughout your day and the timestamps and the things that you think trigger those emotions. Then on the other side of the piece of paper, draw a line down the middle on the other side of the piece of paper, see which emotions you don't want to participate in anymore, and then write the antithesis or opposite of that on the other side of the page. Then, once you've got those all lined up, shouldn't be that many, maybe there are, but I assume no more than 20, that's a lot. Now take the time to physically feel the page and stimulate the senses, light some incense or have some smell oils or something like that. The more senses you can ignite, the greater you will retain information at a conscious and subconscious level. And as you touch the paper and the emotions that you don't want to be a part of, slowly take a pen and draw a big, thick, steady line through it. Scratch it out, cut it out and burn it, whatever it is. Begin to now replace in your mind, in a state of absolute presence, that with the other emotion you have lined up against it, the one you want to participate in. And then feel gratitude for a time in your life when you did feel that way. Truly close your eyes and think back, man, when did I feel so joyful? Birth of my kids, right? Easy one. Coming home and having the kids run up to me like every day, countless other times. Close your eyes, even like right now as I just did, I feel that emotion because I'm reliving that experience and relive that experience. Imagine yourself crossing out the other one and replacing it with this one. Crossing out the other one, replacing it with this one. And that state of positivity, that gratitude, that resonance at the highest rate of vibration, that of gratitude, that will solidify the neural network in your brain at a much greater rate of speed because it's a highly emotional event that you are now creating just by sitting down and giving it a little bit of thought, just like I exemplified for you just now. And then you just do that every morning, right when you wake up. 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes. Make a ritual of it. Grab your coffee, sip your coffee, get your oils, fog up the bathroom, turn on the blue lights, maybe some dim ones, light a candle. You can tell I've done this before. Get your notebook, touch your notebook, play some positive brain resonant vibration music in the background, something like that. Phone's not around. Clocks are not around. Everything's dark, minus the lights. And then in the shadow of the night, in the midst of the twilight, write out whatever it is you need to write out. Feel it, touch it. Cross out the bad one. Think of a time when you felt the good one. Close your eyes. Relive that experience in as much detail as you possibly can so that you elicit the emotion. Sit in that for a moment because you'll want to. And then whenever time comes, move on to the next one. That's how you can get started. Or you could just get started by getting up earlier than you currently do and drinking a tall glass of water. It's up to you. But that's just some stuff that's helped me countless times completely transform my life, completely transform who I am, who I was, what I'm becoming, what I am. So I know those work for anybody. Universal laws. All right. The point of this story is that when you find yourself afraid of taking small jumps, leaps, leaps of faith, conquer that fear by getting furious and ripping through it. There's a lot more to say about this, but when you take that chance, it'll get harder before worse, worse before better, and better before reigniting your spirit in this life and the precious time that you have. Take the chance, make the jump. Have the best of intentions, be as calculated as you can be for the information that you have in that given moment, but it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have enough. Just do it. Don't safely tiptoe your way around life to death. Don't allow yourself to be influenced by everybody else around you. Take the chance. Fuck it. You're gonna die anyways. Might as well be today.